Alrighty, let's talk Hornet Alteration Meursault. Far as I can tell, man is the ugly duckling between the two most recent Walpurgis IDs. Despite having a shotgun, it's not enough to save him from underwhelming first impressions upon his kit reveal. We'll see if we can remedy that in a bit, but let's go over what this man offers. Let's start with, there's not much in the way of passives here really, but we probably should start here anyway. Ego Alteration / Spore round is his always on passive. It sources him bullets in the form of Spore rounds. These furthermore come in two different versions, those being base rounds and buckshot rounds for the rifle and shotgun modes respectively. When using skills that use base rounds, we inflict 2 Spore, whereas shotty rounds inflict 3 Spore. For whatever reason, it is important to note that this counters inflicting negative effects with this skill. Past that, he's got an odd ammo conversion mechanic wherein he can convert base rounds to buckshot before each coin is used if he doesn't have any buckshot ready. He also has the usual caveat with ammunition-based IDs. They cancel their skills to reload if they run out of bullets. In this case, he'll immediately halt his skill to forcefully reload, much like Solemn Lament Ye Sung. This will likely only trigger if he's trying to use any skill without any base rounds due to the aforementioned buckshot conversion. The irony here is that he just doesn't dump out enough bullets in short fights to force a reload outside of his S3, forcing him to do so. Beyond that, anytime a unit with Spore is killed, he gains Loyalty Pheromones, a unique buff that he can only gain this way. This is going to be a major restriction within his kits, so a few things we can go over immediately. Gun's got 2 modes, and coins will explicitly state which mode it is using via the ammunition it is utilizing. To save you the trouble of looking through, 5 coins in his kits use base rounds, whereas 4 use buckshots, a surprisingly even spread, until you count the total number of skills an ID has. The skill 1 being half his kit uses 6 base rounds over 3 skills. The skill 2 uses 6 buckshot rounds over 2 skills, and the skill 3 uses 3 bases and a buckshot with its 1 in the skill buckets, leading to a total of 9 base rounds and 7 buckshot rounds. Actually, that's still pretty even, but I digress. He starts with 10 base and 6 buckshots. A single conversion makes his consumption line up pretty much perfectly with his ammunition. Well, short of 1 base round, but that's fine, as we'll see later. Ammo out of the way, we need to talk about Spore. This is just burn count for every 5, alongside 1 bind no matter the count. It's applied on literally every coin except for his evade. Past there is Loyalty Pheromone. This grants us protection, haste, and clash power up, but has the very heavy restriction of needing something to die. Loyalty Pheromone is going to come up really often, unfortunately, meaning we're going to be shit out of luck during boss battles that lack adds, or at least things to kill on the side. For his fueled passive, it's Spore Diffusion. When we kill something with Spore, it multiplies our Spore application the next turn. It also offers us a Spore round restoration on kill, making this fella very kill streaky. For his skills, they're all very straightforward. The first skill is Warning Shots. It's a 2-coiner double tap with the rifle mode. This means it uses a base round on each coin. It comes with damage conditionals based on Spore, and inflicts both burn and bleed. Notably though, there's a max ammo condition before use. If we have the maximum amount of Spore round, we inflict Pierce Fragility. This is on a bloody skill 1. Not bad all things considered. Aside from that, there's a burn and bleed conditional, which is nice I suppose, since burn is very stable and Spore would only make it even more stable. Moving along, skill 2 is Ego Alteration Buckshot. This one only fires shotgun rounds. Notably, it is an AoE and is basically a sweep and clear to 2 targets. First off, it unfortunately deals less damage to sub-targets. Suppose that's the price we pay for easy AoE access. It's not the worst price to pay since the idea is to spread Spore around as best as possible. The skill has the usual coin power status conditionals on bleed and burn, but has extras based on loyalty pheromone stacks. In this case, it's 1 extra clashing power and unbreakable coins per stack, starting with the final coin backwards. What's particularly cool though is that this auto reloads after attack if at less than 1 round, meaning that if we slam down this skill with the intent of converting base rounds into buckshots, if we manage to get 1 or under, then we're getting a free reload that we can pump back into Warning Shot for more Pierce Fragility. Surprisingly convenient. Anyhow, this does burn and bleed count, alternating burn, bleed, then burn again. Kinda mediocre, but it's AoE application, so honestly, can't complain about that all too much. The skill-free Field Test Dust Spark is the combination rifle morph into shotgun affair. It has both AoE and single target properties, but notably it has the deal more damage based on excess attack weight, beyond the number of actual targets. This is pretty crucial in amping up its damage, especially as the first few rounds only hits a single target. More importantly though, this thing auto-loads a few rounds if we don't have enough in order to execute itself. It does cost SP to do so, meaning we ought to treat this a little bit like triggering rip space without the relevant amount of charge, I suppose. Coin power status conditionals once again, but horrifyingly up to 3. This is going to be really dumb to stack with regrets. Aside from that, 3 entire conditionals based on loyalty pheromone. Those being Clash Power, Unbreakable Coins, and Bloody Attack Weight, the last of which directly translates into more damage. This thing can be a bloody monster, I suppose. The last fella alive is not going to have a fun time. After the attack, we force reload regardless of rounds, adding to the basically never running out of bullets unless we double slots. We may yo-yo a bit with SP though, considering this ID seemingly compulsively reloads like an Ace of Spades user. Beyond that, the coins are very simple, at least for the first 3. We get a triple tap with the rifle, inflicting burn, bleed, and bleed again, followed up by a pretty stacked buckshot round. This is an AoE that unfortunately deals less damage against its sub-targets, but deals more damage based on loyalty pheromones, and can cause a mini burn burst. The way it does this is so long as the final coin isn't cracked and the target spore count is at 15, it'll deal burn potency multiplied by spore stack divided by 10 RAF damage. Dealing RAF damage with this effect counts as activating burn, which can be oddly relevant depending. Past there, the burn count gets reduced and spore expires. Finally, the damn thing inflicts burn and bleed count. Whew, that was one oddly long one for whatever reason. It made up like half the page on the kit reveal slide even. Last though is his evade. It reloads on combat start specifically, which means if he double slots, he'll be able to restock before firing off. Only really relevant with his S1, considering everything else just cheats the ammo. When the evade is used, it gains coin power based on status, up to 3 again. And finally, he heals himself on a successful evade. If he has loyalty pheromone, he heals 5 more HP per stack. It's a flat heal, but that's alright, getting him up to a 25 bump. All in all, this guy can kinda be a one-man army under the right conditions. Well, more specifically, he's a one-man army for encounters where he's actually fighting an army. Else, well, half his kit gets a little gimped. That said, he's gonna be stupid strong in encounters where he can ramp up his loyalty stacks and otherwise pretty okay. So how are we gonna build him? Well, I've been meandering around with how I want him to work, and I've come to a few funny solutions. Unfortunately, the most stable is going to be burn, if only due to the intense requirements of status for some of his conditionals, and his stabilization of counts in a more effective way. Time to be boring today, I suppose. We can bring out the Burning Bird engine. For a more detailed breakdown on how to use these 3 in tandem, see my Lamp Gregor video. In summary though, we want Yo Heathcliff and Yo Sinclair in order to boost up burn application, rotating out via Lord Honger's counter. Yes, I know, hey show slop and all that. You can start booing at the screen. This thing is just too effective not to use though. Capitalize off of his Pierce Fragile, we're looking to bring Lamp Gregor too. He applies enough burn to work and benefits off of all the count stability too. The sinking he provides is just nice to have, as we won't be too worried about enemy SP climbing with him around. He can of course also tank for us as needed, and otherwise unleash Unbrilliant Glory for more burn. Next is the other boring option, Magic Bullet Otis. She provides the pride we need to drop regrets, and also Dark Flame can be applied to multiple enemies at once. We're abusing this to go wild with burn application and get our mini burn deluge once built up. Since we're aiming for a sweep and clear strategy, I suppose the best way to get this going is via getting the right number of magic bullets for Otis to abuse the AoE coins, specifically on the 4th, 5th, and 6th bullets, if at all possible. Moving past Dark Flame abuse, we're going to need some sanity stability. This will come in the form of Liu Yi-sung being on the field. By getting a 4 res of RAF, he just pumps SP out like nobody's business, specifically in a burn team. Aside from that, he just inflicts a lot of burn potency, which is more than nice to have since most of our fellas thus far have been a bit more count-centric. Being able to blast up the burn will go a long way, as even his S1 has 4 burn on there under the right conditions. In terms of egos, we can give him his great Trichiliocosm, Since it's an AoE, we can activate everyone's burn all at once, and well, considering almost everyone in the encounter is going to have burn for one reason or another, we're gonna profit here. With 6 sinners out of the way, you're probably wondering if anything is going to change here. Well, I suppose I ought to throw in some jank, since substituting units in is a rather funny option here. We can really mess with things in a specific way. Well, a rather suicidal way. Welcome aboard LCE Arda Blossom Star Forced. We are letting her go in and explode. We aren't here to make her clash and inflict a ton of burn. We're here to get her to catch fire, detonate, and fuck off. In the meantime though, if we can abuse her S2 for pride, that would be appreciated. Once she explodes for ego resources, one of the others can sub in and use Lord Honger's ability to boot. But there will be a turn where both chickens hit the field for a moment. In terms of egos, we don't need any of hers. She's here to let us use other ones. Now for the backline and substitutes in the event of detonation. Think East Dawn lets Meursault turbo his speed as one of the only fellows with haste here. That's or Lord Hongers is going to steal the haste, but that is fine in order to make him consistently clash with his counter. If you use her as a substitute, she requires a little too much time to build up. Not the best returns. The speed-based conditionals in her kits are quite easy to fulfill though, thanks to Spore's bind and her own haste, so the option and viability is still present. Aside from her, 3 different loos are here depending on your needs. One of them will be your main substitutes when Faust explodes. If we bring in Lou Rodya, we sadly lose out on her Pierce bonuses, but can drop a Searing Birdcage to lower Wrath resistances for a decent clip. Lou Ishmael is a bit more of an all-rounder, but most of her budget is in her ego usage. If we want to use Faust's Ashes on something, an Arda Blossom Star or Capote are fine options to accelerate burn, especially the former as she'll now scatter burn around on multiple targets per hit. Going beyond, if she can somehow afford a Blind Obsession thanks to Faust, we can toss that out too for fun. As for Liu Roshu, you take her if you want to abuse a beat stick with 4th Match Flame, or slam that 2nd Great Trichiliocosm for the damage. Either is fine. Just pick your favorite Liu to replace Faust upon detonation and you'll be good to go. That's everyone out of the way, right? Perhaps it's unusually fast because the team really hasn't changed too much. But this Meursault really is that simple to use. Shotguns and rifles are more or less the most simple weapons to use in most games after all. With play patterns, it's quite simple. Deployment is moderately important, Meursault up front if you want to abuse his attack weight to the maximum, as well as his Spore application, and support passive targeting. Keep 1 Rooster off the field and 1 on the field to start immediately abusing the Burning Bird engine. Anyhow, turn 1, fuel regret. Doesn't matter how, just get yourself at least 3 Wrath and 2 Pride. This lets the man just send it on the next turn. Hongers should counter unless an S3 is available, in which case he can just use that to fuel Pride instead. Magic Bullet and Force should prioritize being the Pride sources, potentially the same with Gregor. Everyone else should be adding Wrath to the pile. If we can somehow get 4 of it, that turns Yisung's SP heal on, and Roshu's burn spread on too. Note that with Roshu's burn spread, this will mainly be with targets that Gregor manages to kill, since he will almost always be guaranteed as the slowest. On turn 2, we can focus on getting everyone else's up to scruff, while Meursault uses regrets. We want at least a Sloth, Pride, and Wrath in order to Unbrilliant Glory for Gregor on turn 3. Regardless, send the birds via Honger's counter, get Faust to use her S1 if possible, and start stacking up some magic bullets. If you can somehow get a 4 Wrath resin going, do so in order to spread around more SP via Yisung. Otherwise, we want at least 2 to 3 in order to get the rest of the Liu passives going. On turn 3, we can slam Meursault's shotgun again. Only this time, there should be a lot more hefts with the bonus coin power going around, especially since it would otherwise only have +1 coin power from the statuses alone. Everyone else can fast forward their game plans as they see fit. If we can squeeze out Pride though, that would be advised in order to build towards magic bullets. Lust will get via Sinclair swapping in and out with free S1 usage, and if at any point we need to use Meursault's S1 instead. The goal in this case is to try and get Otis to 4 magic bullets at least. That way we can get a pretty solid AoE out of it. If you want a backup plan at this stage, hit Unbrilliant Glory on Gregor for insurance. Turn 4. Pop Meursault's S3. There should be more than enough targets with Burn and Spore on them. Even better if there's a main target with the potential to hit 15 Spore. Considering Spore stays on, and S3 hits at least 6 Spore before the last coin, you can safely pop it at 9 Spore on target, that of which perfectly lines up with a single S2 being used. I'd advise dumping out a second S2 though beforehand, just to get the maximum damage potential out of this skill anyhow. since this forces an auto reload after usage, we're topped back to max rounds without going too far beyond the safe ammo usage before skills stop functioning. On turn 5, if there's anything alive and kicking, you can hit the magic bullet button and watch them die. If you wish to add insult to injury, let Meursault use his S1 for a free Pierce Fragile before it hits even. Between the birds going back and forth, Gregor's aggressive damage scaling, Horse potential detonation, and Meursault dumping his bullets, well, it'll be a bit of a miracle if anything survives past this turn in a normal, unfocused encounter anyhow. In a focused one, a bit more effort is probably required, since we're not flushing out Tremor Scorch or anything of the sort, but honestly, it's fine. Now, as a side note, let's talk about the importance of loyalty pheromones. How much does not having these impact his capabilities? Ironically, not much. It just provides nice-to-haves rather than essentials. A single clash power won't make or break things, neither will a few unbreakable coins, all things considered. If we somehow had unbreakable coin synergy, that'd be a different story entirely. But for the time being, I think we're safe from that. The protection is assuming we're going to get hits. In a group or encounter with unbreakable coins, sure, but otherwise it gets wasted. The haste is probably the biggest loss, all things considered, or that and 2 lines on the S3. The at-free loyalty pheromone get an extra attack weight, and the for every loyalty pheromone deal extra damage. This one is unfortunately a raw damage loss since hitting more targets would be fantastic, but also the skill gets more damage from excess attack weight, making this sadder to lose, alongside the tiny 15% buff. That said, it's not as oppressive as I thought it would be when reading the initial reveal. While he clearly performs better in contents where we have to kill a lot of things at once, that's not to say that he can't just keep stacking spores on a single target and flushing them out as required. If anything, he keeps the enemy always a speed lower and burn always tied to them, making him a solid enough addition to a burn team. Especially a pure burn team rather than the tremor blended variety. As we get more fellas that pile on potency rather than counts, I reckon he'll start shining more. Well, mostly I'm staring at the Artist Star glow up with the Bogak. That's and perhaps the 4th match flame, UT5, but we'll see how it all goes down the line. Aside from that, let's just say letting Meursault have free extra coin power on a 4-coiner is horrifying, let alone turning it into 5 with regrets. Truly, we gave the stranger a gun, and now he's shooting at mid-30s as a joke. That's 2 videos out on back-to-back days. Don't mind me as I just expire for a bit. If you enjoyed the content, like the video and drop a subscription. We're almost at 2.5k. If you want to go further beyond, like these 2 idiots being Derp and Artie, go sign up to my Patreon. There's a bunch of tiers and some of them offer a few little benefits. Thanks for using me as second monitor content. Hope your Walpurgis rolls have gone well, and of course, have a good rest of your day. We'll see what we end up getting up to this weekend.